the earliest nationalities that came in this area here were primarily Italian and Croatian, and they it came with the railroad coming in 1886. The NP Railroad came through here primarily because of one reason: coal. First, there were Chinese brought in as laborers, but the railroad wanted to develop the mines and get that coal going. So Italians were coming in at the time, and also Croatians, and some of them started working in the mines right away, and number 3 was one of the early mines, number 1 and number 2, as they opened up, and the conditions of the mines were pretty much what they call was piece rate. In other words, sometimes called contract labor. The largest African American community in the Northwest was in Roslyn, and there was really some hard feelings for quite a while, but they gradually subsided, and the Roslyn schools, immigrant kids that went to schools, for example, they all were in the same class. They all had to learn like all the rest, and it was kind of a melting pot, if you want to use that term. That's what you called it when they landed in New York after they got off Ellis Island. And someone asked, well, what if a Croatian married an Italian? What would happen if you in the lodge? Were you kicked out? No. Okay? They weren't that discriminatory at all. The African Americans had a lodge called Knights of Tabor. Little is known of it. Now, when the immigrants got here, they didn't have much money. What they did have is a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity. The mines were dangerous, and yet these miners loved working in the mines, but they didn't want their kids working in the mines. Education was reserved for the very, very wealthy elite. That was it. And you were pretty much bound by whatever your father did. In other words, if father was a peasant working a field for a landlord, that's what you were to be, no matter what abilities you had. You were denied that opportunity. So when the immigrants came here, their kids, they wanted to see their kids go on to school, get an education. So education was a very important aspect of driving the families to a better life. The thing is that with that in mind, there were times when the families couldn't earn enough money. Summertime, if you got 2 days a week working in the mines, you were lucky. No Social Security, no unemployment. You had to be resourceful and find ways of supplementing your income to keep the family going. And on top of that, gardening was another thing. And I'll tell you, being resourceful, you had a big garden. And you often wondered why they had fences around their garden. It wasn't to protect people from raiding the gardens. They usually had a cow. And that's right, in town. And in Roslyn, the cows were taken up on the Roslyn Ridge, and you could hire somebody, or the kids in the family, someone was responsible for taking old Bess up there on the ridge and leaving her for the day and going to school. Anyhow, that supplied the milk and butter. The gardens were a key thing. The other thing is, in the old country, water was not exactly clear and safe to drink. And so you either made wine or you made beer. The Italians loved to make wine, I'm sorry. But the winemaking was so popular here that when Prohibition started in 1917, somewhere in there, it was a real hardship on these people. They had no idea. I mean, old country rules and customs, I guess, versus this, you can't have a drink caused us real problem. Which do you obey? Your customs or this prohibition thing? Anyhow, in 1928, the still blew up. It was at 250 gallons a day, and you could sell moonshine a gallon easily for over $5 to $10 a gallon. And that was going to Seattle. And the revenuers came in and smashed the kegs and everything. Some tried to find the kegs and were rolling them in the woods, and then whoever saw where it was hidden would sneak in and roll it somewhere else so the other party didn't know where it was at. I mean, that stuff was really good stuff. And there were some who were running outside with cups and whatever, to get whatever they could running down along the street and stuff. So it was kind of a sad day to see that still go.